10.1-inch e-reader with note-taking capabilities and the ability to run any Android app you want. That's the Meebook P10 Pro. Join me, James Bruce, as we take a closer look and see if this is the eBook reader for you. So first, let's clear something up. The Likebook P10 from Boyu was a great device, but sadly the pandemic wasn't kind to the company, and after a series of unfortunate events, things went downhill. However, the staff reformed and like a phoenix created the Haoqing Tech brand and the Meebook from the ashes. So you're going to see a lot of similarities here between the Likebook P10 and the Meebook P10 Pro, particularly when it comes to the UI. However, just to be clear, it is a new company. There were rumours that they would perhaps buy the Likebook brand, but perhaps that fell through. So they've just gone ahead and made a new Meebook brand instead. But if you see it being referred to as things like Likebook P10 Pro in some marketing channels, then just know that it is in fact the same product, the Likebook or the Meebook P10 Pro. So let's start with some specs. The Meebook P10 Pro has a gorgeous e-ink Carta HD 10.1 grayscale capacitive touchscreen, and that runs at 1200 by 600 pixels, working out at about 200 ppi. Now this is front lit with both warm and cold LED lighting, and you can configure these at the exact brightness that you like. Powered by a quad-core 1.8 GHz CPU with 3 GB of RAM, it is plenty powerful enough to give snappy UI performance and quickly turn through pages. It also boasts an active stylus digitizer layer with pressure sensitivity, which we'll get onto later. For connectivity, you'll find Bluetooth 5.0 should you wish to play audiobooks on it, as well as Wi-Fi, though by default the Wi-Fi is disabled after a certain time to save battery life. The 3900 mAh battery may sound a little small, but it will last you at least a few weeks before needing to recharge under normal use. And it has about a 5-week standby time. Of course, things like browsing the web or playing games on it with a high refresh mode is going to kill that much more quickly, but you shouldn't be buying an e-reader to browse the web or play games on. It's not designed for either. Without the case, it weighs around 458 grams or 16 ounces, though you'll probably want this case and stylus on top of that, taking it to about 643 grams. So it's not super lightweight, but nor is it a massive burden. The overall design of the P10 Pro is fairly basic. Obviously, you have the glass front, metal sides, and then the back is plastic, but most of it is this sort of diagonal line textured carbon fibre-esque, but not. It's just a little flourish on the back, but you'll probably put it in the case anyway, so it doesn't matter. The case has this lovely blue and black marbling on the front, with the inside being a kind of light grey velvety feel, which is nice to touch, but when it's folded open it may stain pretty easily with everyday skin oils or coffee. Meanwhile, the back of the case in which the P10 Pro sits is a flexible TPU sort of smoky black, and it automatically sleeps and wakes the device when you close it. Overall, though, it looks nice, especially in the case. It's comfortable to hold, it's distinctive without being too garish. The Meebook P10 Pro is available now for around $350 or £247 from techinthebasket.com. And the package includes the active stylus and that gorgeous blue case. So the first thing you might be asking is, why would you choose, say, the Meebook P10 Pro over, say, an Amazon Kindle? The primary reason is to break free of that walled Amazon garden. Not only do you get the ability to install any Android app that you want, so you can install your preferred reader or comic book app, even the Kindle app if you really want, but it's also super easy to get books onto here. There's no DRM, of course. It's as simple as plugging the USB cable into your computer and using the standard Android file transfer app to drag and drop files or folders in. The internal storage of 64 gigabytes is plenty, I think. This is one of the major advantages, because if you've ever got a book outside of the Kindle store and tried to get it onto your device, it involves emailing your own personalized Kindle address. It's just, what? With this, read anything you like. Don't worry about being tracked or surveilled or judged, which does seem to be a growing concern in even the so-called democratic countries nowadays. The underlying OS is based on Android 11, but it is obviously heavily customized. I opted for the standard UI home screen, which you can choose during startup, but this basically emphasizes the core features of the Meebook P10 Pro with a default library shelf and then a separate tab for note-taking and another one for apps. You can also opt for a more simplified sort of regular Android view with a bunch of tiled apps if you prefer. Perhaps you have more than one favorite eReader app that you're regularly going to use. That might be better. So how's the reading experience? Out of the box, the included reader application built into the OS is compatible with any book format I threw at it, from PDFs to EPUBs to Mobi, as well as featuring all the expected UI preferences, font sizes, text reflow, that sort of thing. It also opens CBZ, CBR comic book formats, Deja Vu, AZW3, though I can't confirm those latter two as I don't have samples of those to test with. Page turning, even within heavy PDFs, is fast and responsive with little ghosting between pages. If your PDF has come with a bunch of white space, then you can manually set the page edges for better display, or just use the autoflow settings. And if your PDF has come as a 2-up document, you can even tell it that and have it display each page separately, which is clever. You can also switch to landscape 2-up view if you like, though it doesn't automatically detect orientation. You have to tap it from the menu. Reading in the dark, thanks to the uniform front lighting, feels good too. With a customizable degree of warm or cold lighting, I noticed no hotspots. You can also completely invert the black and white, though that does result in a lot more ghosting. If you do want text-to-speech, you can also have that. It's built-in Google basic text-to-speech engine, which doesn't need a Wi-Fi connection, but it is quite robotic. I'm not sure how many people actually use that though, or why. So if you are someone who uses TTS in an ebook, please do let me know in the comments what your exact use case is. Perhaps I will know in future specifically what to check for there. Basically, the reading experience on the P10 Pro is superb. I mean, as you'd expect from a company that's been making e-readers for quite a few years now. Now, one standout feature of the Meebook P10 Pro is the highly responsive Wacom digitizer layer, which works with an active stylus included in the purchase price. The digitizer is pressure sensitive, as you can see here. On-screen results are almost instant with only minimal lag, a lot less than I would have expected from an e-ink screen. I was actually thinking this would be a pretty gimmicky feature, but actually I found it works well enough that I found myself jotting notes and to-dos throughout the day. Standard touch interactions will not write on the page, so you don't need to worry about blobs from your palm or fingers, but gestures for forward and back do still work. So it could have just been the angle I was writing at while trying to record this demo, but I did find myself accidentally triggering backward and forward page gestures when I didn't want to. That didn't seem to happen so much in normal use though, so again, it might have just been the angle. So the notebook feature is given its own tab in the interface if you opt for the simplified UI as I did. It's very simple to access, just click home, load up the notebook on the bottom left here. The only annoying thing I found was that when you're starting a new document, it's not exactly obvious how to actually create the thing and start. As you open the new notebook screen and name it, then you choose the template. Tapping the enter or tick button on the keyboard actually does nothing. Instead, you have to hide the keyboard, and there you'll find underneath a create new button. It seems like putting that stickied up at the top or something would have been better, because even as a tech reviewer, this UI flow wasn't at all obvious to me. One small bug I found was that even after calibration, there seemed to be a dead spot on the right side of my screen where it just wouldn't record any stylus presses. This seems like it could be a hardware issue on my test model though, so definitely something to check out when you get yours. But overall, I was really impressed with the note-taking capabilities, and it far exceeded what I was actually expecting from an e-reader. As far as I can tell, there's no handwriting recognition, but that's not a huge loss personally. I've never had a good experience with handwriting recognition, probably because my handwriting is utterly horrendous. And if I wanted characters in text form, I would use a keyboard because I can type much faster than I can write. I wouldn't be typing notes on this. So what about other apps? While Google Play is technically unsupported, it is able to run on the device. However, lately Google has been cracking down on security, and that means that you will need to add your hardware ID to your Google account, whitelisting it effectively, and it can be a bit of a nightmare. The process for actually registering the ID with your account is about as simple as it could be. When you launch the App Store, it'll say not supported, then a dialog box will appear. Click on that. That invites you to fill out your ID, but the form is already filled out. You just have to tick the box to confirm you're not a robot and submit the form. That then whitelists the device with that ID on your account and allows you to use Google Play with it, in theory. The instructions tell you to wait a few hours, then try logging in again, and that didn't work. I asked support. They said you might have to wait up to 4 days. In the end, though, I found I had to go into the settings to both Google Play and Google services, delete their storage cache entirely, and then restart. And only then would it let me log in and use the Google Play Store. In fairness, this isn't the fault of Meebook. You're going to find it with any unsupported Android device. In fact, if you have an Honor or Huawei device, you can't even do this whitelisting procedure anymore. It's just the state of Google Play support in 2022. But anyway, I did eventually get it to work, as you can see, and I have installed some other apps to play around with this. That said, I wouldn't suggest you start installing all the apps you might have on your Google account. This is an e-reader after all, but I was surprised to find casual word games were quite playable with the A2 high refresh mode enabled. That degrades the screen quality, but increases the refresh rate. But the experience is still going to be substandard compared to an actual tablet or phone, which you're probably carrying anyway. There is a speaker, but it's not great. I mean, I tried to watch a video and source material aside. It wasn't horrendous, it was tolerable.
The Haybike Mars is a little bit weird. It's clearly not going to suit everyone's taste, and the only downside to this heavyweight monster is that it is heavy and cumbersome.
But obviously that's not what this is for, and you're probably going to have a device that's going to do that infinitely better than this already. But if you have a favourite comic book app like Comixology, then it should run on this. If your library integrates with Libby or BorrowBox, as mine does, that also runs fine. Basically, you have a lot of freedom with this. So, should you buy the P10 Pro or upgrade from the P10? If you already have a Likebook P10, you don't need to upgrade. It's a bump from 2 GB to 3 GB of RAM and from Android 8.1 to Android 11, as well as a better stylus. But unless you have an app that's specifically incompatible with Android 8.1 and you desperately want it, it's not enough of a specs bump to justify upgrading. Your P10 should be good for a very long time yet, and that's actually testament to how well these things are built and long-lasting that they are, partly because there's a lot less stress on the battery than most devices which will eat through batteries on a daily basis and run through those sort of limited charge cycles. Should you buy this as your first e-reader and digital note-taking device? I can definitely recommend the P10 Pro if you want something with a good screen size, responsive note-taking and compatibility with any ebook that you want to throw at it. As I mentioned, it is a bit of a faff to get Google Play Store working. The Meebook tries to minimize that faff, but you may still need to go in and clear out Google Play and services storage cache completely, as I did. Even if you don't want to install any other apps though, I still think the core experience is worth it on this, especially because you won't be limited in what you can read. You don't need to worry about swapping formats, it'll just open anything. That said, it is still Android under the hood, and some people won't get on with that. You might actually want a more curated, personalized, walled garden experience, and that's okay. Sometimes less choice is better. If you are exclusively within, say, the Amazon ecosystem, if you don't want digital note-taking of any kind, if you literally just want something to read on, if you don't want any other Android apps at all, if you're happy with what Amazon gives you, then this isn't going to be the best option for you. On the other extreme, if you only want a digital note-taking device and not particularly an e-reader, you probably want something bigger, like the Remarkable 2. It's going to offer you a better core writing experience than this, with a little less latency and that larger surface to draw on. But it is, of course, also more expensive. The P10 Pro then is a good all-rounder that offers a great reading experience, but also does digital note-taking with the greatest compatibility of any format ebook and the freedom to install any Android app that you want, all for a very reasonable $350. So if that sounds like something you want, head on over to techinthebasket.com to pick one up. All right, that's it from me. I hope this review helped you in some way. Let me know down in the comments if you think I missed something that you'd like to see covered. Please hit like if it did help you, and consider subscribing for more weekly reviews and gadget giveaways. Speaking of giveaways, right now we are giving away 2 enormous 40-inch 144Hz gaming monitors from InnoCN, so do also check out the review for that. Head on over to makeuseof.com/giveaways to enter that. Until next time.